Another year, another automotive trade show, and this year I've returned to Chicago and just in time to see Stellantis return after a one-year hiatus from the show circuits. Good thing, too, because there's new cars to check out from them and many of your favorite makes. And maybe not so favorite makes. In this series of videos, I'm going to take you on a little tour of the latest in automotive and point out some of the show's highlights and tell you what you missed and maybe give a little suggestion as to why you should be interested. And in this video, I'm going to show you the new models and concepts coming from and now freshly available from Kia, everyone's favorite Korean brand, I think. And if you didn't get to go, don't worry, I'll guide you through it, it being the 2025 Chicago Auto Show. As of now, the Chicago Auto Show occurs at McCormick Place, and I last showed up here back in 2023 for filming one of my channel's more successful videos. Kia brought a couple of new vehicles to Chicago this year, including the K4, the new generation of what was called the Forte in the US. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite designs ever pushed out of a Kia factory. A sharp-looking sedan presented here at the show in red and gray, with the red car being the GT line Turbo model, currently the top K4 model and the apparent replacement for the Forte GT, I think. It's a bit odd since there's the GT line and the GT line Turbo. For those unfamiliar with Kia's nomenclature, GT is the name given to the top performance trim of Kia's model range, such as the Stinger GT, the EV6 GT, K5 GT, and so on. GT cars usually feature different body parts or lighting features, and of course offer more performance in the range of retuned suspension and more powerful power plants. On paper, the K4 GT line Turbo seems like it could just be the GT. The Turbo and GT line both have a bit of a body kit, and the Turbo of course gets the more powerful engine and some sharper suspension components. So unless the K4 is getting a true GT model, the GT line Turbo is, as far as I can tell, the new Forte GT. But who knows? Maybe we're going to get a meaner K4 in the future. Maybe with the proposed hatchback model that we have to wait a little bit longer for. Which would make sense too, since the GT line Turbo is actually slightly slower than the Forte GT, which I'll explain in a little bit. But still, I do like this car on paper. Decent power for a sporty sedan of its stature, maybe even if it's not of a true sports sedan blood. Sharp design from the 90-degree head and taillights and the intriguing rear quarter panel, the thinner grille design, and some cool interior design bits, including the two-tone seats and the steering wheel. Plus a pretty sensible center console. Materials felt good, being Kia's synthetic leather they call Syntex, which I find to be one of the nicer feeling synth leathers out there. Interestingly, the controls for the heated and cooled seats, which are comfy by the way, if a bit short for me, are on the doors rather than on the seats in the center console or in the infotainment. It's kind of an odd quirk. I don't recall seeing any other cars put these controls on the door before. Speaking of the door, not a big deal, but very plain looking. It's as if the interior designer ran out of time or ideas and the door was the last thing to do. I'm not sure how quite to describe it other than the door card just feels out of place or under-designed, especially in comparison to the rest of the car. And like the Forte, the K4 is one of the cheapest cars in Kia's lineup, and the cheapest sedan they currently offer now that the Rio is gone. The K4 starts at about $21,000, which honestly seems pretty good for a car of its size and capabilities and tech, and it's welcoming in a world of rising car prices, even though I think this is still more than the base Forte price. But arguably, there's more car here. The GT line Turbo starts at $28,000 USD, features a turbocharged 1.6-liter inline-4 with 190 horses, a bit down from the Forte GT, which had 201 horsepower. Not only that, but the Turbo posts a 0 to 60 in the low 7s as opposed to the Forte GT doing it in the mid 6s. So maybe a more powerful version will come, though it probably depends on how much they want to stress the Kia GDI engine, which in the past has not been known for durability. At least not with the way they get paired to the transmissions. Speaking of, the Forte GT still offered a 6-speed manual, which the new K4 drops, and I highly doubt it will return. As far as the speed, the K4 is a bit heavier than the Forte, so I imagine if it had less weight, the 190 horsepower would match the outgoing GT a bit more. but it's a wait and see type game. However, it could be possible that said waiting and seeing is looking towards the EV4, seemingly staged as an EV counterpart to the K4. Perhaps we'll find more performance there. Also of note is the Kia EV9, their new large electric SUV, which I think is supposed to be an electric counterpart to the Telluride. More specifically, we have the EV9 Adventr, which removes all the vowels except the letter A. This 2024 SEMA concept portrays the EV9 as an off-road capable adventure vehicle with not enough obvious ground clearance, new suspension, off-road tires, and a cord to keep people from getting too close. But there are some things to praise, like the matte paint job, the neat-looking roof rails, and the other brawny-looking design bits added on top of the EV9. Aside from that, the EV9 has been pretty well received as a vehicle just by itself, offering okay-ish range and a nice exterior and interior and tech in a pseudo-luxury package that undercuts something like the Jeep Wagoneer, though more expensive than other typically lower price brands like Chevy or Honda. Though those vehicles arguably offer less in some respects to reflect their lower price tags. An off-road focused EV9 would be interesting, though I feel it would likely come down to being more off-road in appearance and stature as opposed to any actual off-road practicality, like Hyundai's gimmicky XRT trim level. There's no telling if the EV9 Adventr will actually see production, but despite the advertising, I don't see it as an actual alternative to something like a 4x4 equipped Jeep model, or a gas-powered, off-road focused Land Rover, or even a Rivian. The problem with the off-road looking stuff that Hyundai and Kia sells in the US so far is that it's just a look. It's all bark and no bite, and it's too bad because the Hyundai Sante Fe XRT, which I looked at but didn't film, looks like it could be a compelling discount Land Rover if only it featured any actual off-road chops that weren't just specialized drive modes. Say what you want about Land Rover owners, they at least still tailor those vehicles, especially the Defender and the higher trim Range Rovers, as potential practical off-roaders. That is to all say, the United States National Park System won't be letting any EV9s or XRT models into their most difficult terrain anytime soon. Anyway, that's what I have to say about the latest models and concepts from Kia. As far as Hyundais go, I don't have much to add other than what I've said, which is that I'd really like to see actual off-road capable versions of their models in the US market. Supposedly, this Santa Fe has an actual 4x4 variant in other markets, but who knows if they'll ever bring it here. Anyway, join me next time for when I tour you through the Italian side of Stellantis with Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and Maserati. And as always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned, you and your cars.